I remember the air in that camp, thick with a kind of desperate hope. We were considered outsiders for World Cup 2026, but our captain, let's call him the Maestro, had an aura that made you believe anything was possible. He was our talisman, the heart and soul of the squad. But even then, amidst the roar of the training ground and the flashes of media cameras, I could sense a brittle edge to his usual charm. There was an unspoken pressure, a weight he carried that was heavier than any trophy. We'd gather in the communal areas, joking, playing cards, but his eyes would often drift, lost in some distant thought, a flicker of something almost like fear. We were a brotherhood, but I realize now, even brothers can keep secrets from each other when the stakes are astronomically high. The dream felt fragile, even before it shattered. It started subtly. Hushed conversations in corners, glances exchanged between the maestro and our manager, a man whose intensity usually burned like a furnace. Now, he was colder, almost calculating. I'd walk past the manager's office and hear muffled voices, sometimes late into the night. The maestro, who normally trained harder than anyone, began missing sessions, citing minor knocks that never quite showed up on the physio's reports. His locker room presence shifted, less boisterous leadership, more quiet observation. We, the players, felt it. The unspoken tension created fissures in our camping. We'd shrug it off, telling ourselves it was just World Cup nerves, but deep down, a chilling unease began to settle in. It felt like walking on thin ice, never knowing when it would crack beneath us, and revealing what dark waters lay below. I never witnessed the exact moment, but the pieces fell into place much later. The maestro was approached, not with a direct demand, but with an opportunity. A proposition so tantalizing, so expertly framed, that it presented itself as a chance to secure his post-football legacy, to provide for generations. It wasn't about losing on purpose, not initially. It was about influencing certain outcomes, making strategic errors that would benefit a shadowy network of gamblers and power brokers. The manager, it turned out, was the conduit, the architect of this deception. He preyed on the maestro's insecurities, his desire to be more than just a player, twisting ambition into complicity. The weight I saw on the maestro was the weight of a Faustian bargain, made in secret, under the immense pressure of global expectations. It was a deal with the devil, disguised as a golden handshake. The night before our quarter-final match, the atmosphere in the locker room was thick enough to cut with a knife. The manager gave a team talk that was bizarrely disjointed, a mix of fiery rhetoric and vague, almost coded instructions. He kept glancing at the maestro, who sat staring at his boots, a pallor to his face I'd never seen before. We were buzzing with nervous energy, the kind that precedes a make-or-break game, but the maestro seemed absent, his usual pre-match intensity replaced by a distant, haunted look. I remember trying to catch his eye, to offer a word of encouragement, but he just avoided my gaze, lost in a world only he could see. It felt like we were walking into a fog, unsure of our footing, led by a captain whose compass was spinning wildly. The unity we prided ourselves on, the fierce belief in each other, felt dangerously thin that night. Match day. The roar of the crowd was deafening, a visceral wave of anticipation. But on the pitch, it quickly became a nightmare. Our opponents, a formidable side, were capitalizing on mistakes that felt deliberate. The maestro, our rock, seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. Crucial passes went astray, tackles were mistimed, positions abandoned. I watched in disbelief as he committed errors completely alien to his masterful technique. A clear chance on goal, he hesitated just long enough for the defender to recover. A tactical foul that seemed to gift our opponents a free kick in a dangerous area. The feeling in my gut was pure dread. This wasn't just a bad game, it was something far more sinister. We lost, spectacularly, disgracefully, knocked out of the World Cup in a performance that left the entire nation stunned, and us, the players, utterly bewildered and heartbroken. The weight of defeat was crushing, but the weight of how we lost was unbearable. The locker room after the match was pure pandemonium. Shouts, accusations, tears. The manager, surprisingly calm, tried to blame tactical indiscipline and nerves. But we weren't buying it. Players were yelling at each other, frustration boiling over into raw anger. Then, one of the younger lads, brave or foolish, shouted directly at the maestro, "What was that, Captain? What were you doing?" The room fell silent. All eyes turned to him. The maestro stood by his locker, head down, his face pale and drawn. He muttered something about a bad day, about losing focus. But his eyes held a profound sadness, a self-loathing that screamed louder than any confession. It wasn't just a bad day, it was a surrender. The brotherhood was shattered, replaced by suspicion and a gaping wound that would never fully heal. We felt betrayed, but by what, or by whom, remained a torturous enigma. Years passed, and the wound festered. The story of our World Cup collapse became a legend of failure. But slowly, fragments of truth began to surface. Whistleblowers, investigative journalists, obscure financial transactions, the pieces of the puzzle started fitting together with a horrifying clarity. It turned out the maestro wasn't just paid for his performance, his family had been targeted, leveraged against him. The manager, a puppet master, had orchestrated the entire elaborate scheme, preying on his star players' vulnerabilities and loyalty to his loved ones. The betting syndicates were vast, their reach insidious. I read the reports, saw the evidence, and a cold anger settled in my chest. The maestro's betrayal wasn't just a simple act of greed, it was a desperate sacrifice, a tragic compromise born of unimaginable pressure and twisted manipulation. The beautiful game had been dirted, our dreams sacrificed on the altar of corruption. The legacy of that World Cup is a poisoned one. The manager disappeared from football, his career in ruins, but the full extent of his criminality only emerged much later. The maestro, once revered, became a cautionary tale, his reputation forever tainted. He eventually admitted to a portion of the truth, years after, in a ghost-like interview, his eyes hollow. He spoke of the threats, the impossible choices, but never fully absolved himself, nor did he name all the shadowy figures pulling the strings. I often wonder what could have been, what glory was stolen from us, from the fans, from him. This wasn't just a defeat, it was the murder of a dream, a betrayal that echoed far beyond the pitch, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk even in the brightest lights of the beautiful game. And I, as an insider, will never forget the taste of that bitter truth.